Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Mishpachah. Welcome again to the congregation of Yashra'al. Okay, I'm your brother Kasada Bar. And what we're going to be doing this evening, family, is going over Yom Teruah, all right? When the sun goes down tonight, we will be observing Yom Teruah. And so again, in advance, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody. We're now entering our fall festival. And again, I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to everybody, okay? But before I get the class started, like in all of my classes that I do, we want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father for his love, his mercy, his kindness, his generosity, just everything, all right? The Father's long-suffering. The Father has been extremely, when I say extremely, the Father has been extremely patient with the nation of Yashra'al. And again, we're moving into a very important festival. It's called the Fall Festival, as some might say, but more correctly, it would be the Winter Festival, all right? Because we already went through the Spring Festivals, which was Passover. Okay, we have First Fruits, the waving of the sheaf offering, and we have Shavuot. And right now we're at the end of the service, or the festivals, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, all right? And we're coming to the end of things here now, where we have 3 remaining festivals for the year, all right? That's 3 remaining festivals. But we also want to make sure that we give all esteem to the Father for sending his ultimate love gift. And the Father's ultimate love gift is Yahushua HaMashiach, who is that atoning sacrifice for the nation of Yashra'al. And I'm going to say it again. The Father sent his ultimate love gift for the nation of Yashra'al. And it's about time that we respect and honor, okay, the atoning sacrifice that the Father sent for the nation of Israel. So, again, the title of tonight's class is called Yom Teruah, all right? Feast, spelled F-E-A-S-T, feast or appointed time, all right? Feast or appointed time. The reason why I'm doing this class because there was a good brother, Benaiah, who brought some things to my attention regarding how should we be observing Yom Teruah, all right? And I come to find out is that a lot of us when we come out of the Christian church or whatever else that we might have been involved with, when we come out of those schools of thought and we come into the Hebraic walk, a lot of us are looking at how Jewish people are doing things, and we begin to pick up on what they're doing. And I'm here to share with everybody the way that Jewish people are doing things. It really needs to be examined, because we're not Jewish, and we're not going to follow Jewish customs, or we're going to follow the customs of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All right, Jacob here. And I want to thank everybody for tuning in with us tonight. All right, Shabbat Shalom to Jacqueline Hudson, and Shabbat Shalom to our officer here, Abad Yahu. All right, Shalom, Shalom. So we're going to go to the book of Matthew, all right? We're going to start off with the book of Matthew, the 21st chapter. And like in all of the classes that I do, I want to make sure that we give all esteem, again, to the Father for sending his ultimate love gift, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, the atoning sacrifice for the nation of Yashra'al. And I also want to give a shout out, as we say, a shout out, or no, just, no, what, we're not going to do no shout outs, all right? We're not doing that here. We want to say Shabbat Shalom to the Simmons family, all right, for tuning in with us this evening. Happy Yom Teruah. So let's begin with the book of Matthew, the 21st chapter, all right? Matthew, the 21st chapter, we're going to start at the 33rd verse, all right? And again, the title of tonight's class is called Yom Teruah, Feast, F-E-A-S-T, or appointed time. So again, let's begin with the book of Matthew, or the book of Matthew, the 21st chapter, verse 33, and we're going to read down to the 40th verse. Here we have the Mashiach speaking a parable, all right? He's speaking a parable. So he's talking to his Talmudim here, his disciples. Here another parable. There was a certain householder, all right, which planted a vineyard, and he hedged around about it and digged a wine press in this vineyard, okay, and built a tower and let it out to husbandmen and went into a far country. So the owner of the vineyard would be Yahushua HaMashiach, working under the authority of the father of Yahuwah. Also, what we need to pay very close attention to is the wine press. All right, the wine press is going to be very important because that we know that wine symbolizes marriage. All right, so this is a marriage ceremony, and it's just trying to show us that there's a connection between the bridegroom, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, and the husbandmen that we're talking about here. But it also makes mention that he built a tower. And again, this is a parable. So it's very important that we break down and understand the parable. So again, there's a vineyard. He hedged it about. Okay, so there's a protection about this vineyard or around this vineyard here. And he digged a wine press in it. And he built a tower. This tower is going to represent, okay, the temple here. This is what this tower is. And he let it out to husbandmen. And these husbandmen here are the shepherds. And so the Mashiach here now, again, this is a parable. He goes out into a far country. And when the time of the fruit drew near, okay, he sent his servants to the husbandmen that they might receive the fruits of it. And the husbandmen took the Mashiach's servants and beat one and killed another and stoned another. Again, he sent other servants more than the first, and they did unto them likewise. Verse 37. But last of all, okay, we're going to have the Father, okay? He's going to send unto them, verse 37, but at last of all, he sent unto them his son, which is the Mashiach, saying, they will reverence my son. Verse 38. But when the husbandmen saw the son, which is the Mashiach, they said among themselves, this is the heir. Come, let us kill him, and let us seize on his inheritance. And they caught hold on him, which is the Mashiach, and cast him out of the vineyard and slew him. Watch verse 40. When the sovereign therefore of the vineyard cometh, what will he do unto those husbandmen? All right. Now, the reason why this is very important, how it ties in with Yom Teruah, the appointed time, is because, again, as we see here in the book of Matthew, the 21st chapter, verses 33 to 40, is that there are supposed to have been husbandmen, shepherds who are supposed to have been guarding and protecting the vineyard. So this lets us know that the husbandmen have responsibilities. And the responsibilities now is to share and teach the nation of Israel the importance of the festivals. And these festivals now, or appointed times now, are extremely important. Again, where we have Passover, we have first fruits, we have the waving of the sheaf offering, we have Shavuot, we have Yom Teruah, okay, Yom Teruah, we have Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement, and then we have the Feast of Sukkot. Those festivals are extremely important, and what we're going to be doing this evening, Mr. Bakar, is diving into some of the Hebrew idioms, okay, for Yom Teruah. And some of those Hebrew idioms I have written down here. Yom Teruah sometimes is called Jacob's trouble, all right, Jacob's trouble. The day of the awakening blast. Again, these are some Hebrew idioms for Yom Teruah. The day of judgment. The opening of the books. All right, the opening of the books. We have also now where it talks about Yom Kaseh. Yom Kaseh, all right? Yom Kaseh is the hidden day. We also have some Hebrew idioms for Yom Teruah, where we have now the coming in of Yahushua HaMashiach. Or we might have the inauguration of the king, which is again Yahushua HaMashiach. So again, Yom Teruah is extremely important because it's talking about a blast, all right, a shout, a calling. And anytime we have a blast, a shout, or a calling, it is always trying to let Israel know. Let Israel know that it is now the time of the awakening. And we do see a lot of signs in Israel where there is this awakening, where a lot of our people, again, are beginning to understand the importance of keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. But like I said earlier, all right, like I said earlier, when we come to the understanding of Torah, we don't want to get into Judaism, all right? We don't want to get into that because we know that with Judaism, what they have with Yom Teruah, they have the beginning of the year, all right? The beginning of the year. So what does that mean, all right? Because obviously, all right, the beginning of the year doesn't start in the 7th month, first day. And the beginning of the year obviously doesn't start January the 1st. So coming into this walk, again, we're going to have to shake off a whole lot of stuff and make sure that we keep scriptures according to Torah, which means now understanding our language and our culture. That's going to be very important. So the way that Jewish people do it, they say that Yom Teruah is the beginning of the year, and they talk about the maybe the fiscal year, all right, where we now have a change of seasons, where they now begin to calculate everything that was done during the spring, all right, in preparation for the winter months. And the reason why I'm saying it like that, because again, I don't want to go too deep into this, but according to scripture, there's only 2 seasons. But what we do now is that we break them down into 4 seasons. We say spring, we say summer, we say fall, and we say winter. But according to scripture, all right, we have summer, or we might have early summer, then we have late summer, and then we will have early winter, and then we will have late winter. So, with tonight's topic though, right? Tonight's topic, feast or appointed time. And the reason why I'm labeling it like that, okay, our sister Sharon, she's on the line with us tonight. And we want to say Ahava Shalom to you, Akoti, Shabbat Shalom. We're about to be bringing in Yom Teruah when the sun goes down here this evening. And we're also into a Shabbat, all right? So we're leaving a Shabbat, okay, which we're observing from Tuesday sundown to Wednesday sundown. And we're going to actually now be falling into another Shabbat, which is going, because there's not a break in this here now. Well, what we're going to be doing is having Shabbat from Wednesday sundown to Thursday sundown, observing Yom Teruah. So again, making sure that we keep everything in its proper Hebraic perspective, we're going to find that the word feast, all right, the word feast is not the correct explanation of Yom Teruah, okay? It's just simply not. The word feast, when you look at it from a Western perspective, it's going to put you in a mind of where people might be under the impression where there's going to be a whole big banquet of food. All right. So the word feast, okay, so is not the appropriate Hebraic understanding of it, but the word Yom Teruah, and we begin to understand the word feast in this from a Hebraic perspective, it means appointed time. All right. Appointed time. So what we're going to do, Mishpachah, we're going to go ahead and go with the book of Vayikra. All right. The book of Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And let's see a little bit more on what this whole thing is all about. All right. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And I'm going to be reading verses 1 through 4. 1 through 4, all right? But what I want to do first is that I just want to read it, and then we'll go back and look into it to see what the Father is trying to have Israel, we, the nation of Israel, to understand. Verse 1, and Yahuwah spoke unto Moshe, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast, all right, of Yahuwah, which you shall proclaim to be holy convocation, even these are my feasts. 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest, a set apart convocation or a holy convocation, and you shall do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahuwah in all your dwellings. These are the feasts of Yahuwah, even holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. All right. So it's very important that we understand exactly what's going on in verses 1 through 4 first. So let's go back and see what's going on here. So when Yahuwah, okay, now he's speaking unto Moses, he's not speaking directly to the nation of Israel. So what I found interesting with verse 1 now so far is that we have a mediator, all right, working on behalf of the Father, okay, the Mashiach here, because there's Yahuwah the Father and there's Yahuwah the Son. All right, I've talked about that plenty of times before. Mora Eliyahu, he's actually did a class on that also, where we talked about Yahuwah the Father and Yahuwah the Son. But anyway, right, so we have the mediator now, okay, which is Moses, because we don't have Yahuwah Elohim, all right, acting in direct concert with the bride. So first and foremost, what we should see now is a mediator. And so Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feast, all right? When you look at that word feast, all right, it's the Strong's number 4150. So when we read it now from his Hebraic perspective, now this is talking about a muad or a moed. The Strong's number 4150. So this is an appointed place, an appointed time. It is a meeting. And so understanding the festivals of the Father, okay, as he sends them, or as he gives them to Moses, to the nation of Israel, this is an appointed place or an appointed time. And not just any time, this is a divine appointed time. This is a meeting, an appointed time. And I'm reading from the Hebrew word study, transliteration, pronunciation, etymology, and grammar of the word here. An appointed place, an appointed sign or signal. Again, an appointed sign or signal. So that's the reason why when we are talking about, when I gave the title of tonight's class, so this is actually now Yom Teruah, appointed time. And so again, when you look at the word feast, it means appointed time. So speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them concerning now the appointed times of Yahuwah, which you shall proclaim. All right. So the word proclaim is korah. All right. Where we have the kaf or the kuf, the resh, and the aleph. The word korah is so important, the Strong's number 7121, because it means to call out, to recite, to read, to cry out, or to proclaim. And this is again from the Hebrew word study, transliteration, pronunciation, etymology, and grammar of the word. For me, in order for us to properly understand exactly what's going on in Scripture, it is very important that we look at the Scriptures from a Hebraic perspective. So this is the reason why I'm canceling out the word feast, okay? Because when you read it in Hebrew now, right, the word feast means a divine appointed time. And then we have now Moses giving the instructions now to proclaim, which means now to call out, to recite, or to read. And what he's about to read, to recite to the nation of Israel is on how to have this intimate relationship with the Father, okay, with the bridegroom. Let me just say it that way. How to have this intimate relationship with him. And the only way that we can have this intimate relationship with the bridegroom is by following the laws, statutes, and commandments. All right. So we have now this appointed time. All right. And we have the word proclaim, which is the Hebrew word korah, which means to recite. And so we're going to begin to understand that he's actually wanting Moses to recite everything that he's going to be sharing with him. Let me just back up here a little bit. All right. This is not going to be long, Mishpachar. So, which you shall korah. Now, these are Kodesh convocations. All right. The word holy is the Strong's number 6944. And these are set apart convocations. And you look at the word convocations. All right. Is the word mikra. All right. It's the Strong's number 4744. And that's also very important because it's basically sharing with us the same definition. It's a reading. All right. It's a calling together, convoking, a reading, a sacred assembly, a sacred assembly. And this is the reason why we go back to the word Kodesh. It is a holy or set apart, korah, calling, mikra, convocation. And so what I want everybody to understand first and foremost about Yom Teruah is that it's a set apart coming together. But what's interesting now is that we go to the book of Deuteronomy, Devarim. We have 16 and we have verse 16. The instructions are, 3 times a year shall all thy males appear before Yahuwah thy Elohim in the place, okay, which he shall choose in the feast. And that word again, feast is a hog. All right. So we have the word feast, okay, meaning appointed times. And we also have the word feast as the Strong's number 2282, excuse me. And it's the Hebrew word hog. I just said chag, the glottal sound. Now, this now is during the time of unleavened bread, okay, in the hog of weeks, and in the hog of tabernacles, and they should not appear before Yahuwah thy Elohim empty. So now, what is interesting now is that when you look at the word teruah, okay, where we look at the word feast is appointed times. But 3 times a year, all males must report to Jerusalem. And when we keep everything in its proper Hebraic perspective now, is that the 3 times a year when all males must report to the to Jerusalem now, it makes mention now that is a hog. So your hog now are only Passover. We have the Feast of Weeks, and we have the Feast of Tabernacles. That is very important. So when we look at now Yom Teruah, and we look at the Day of Atonement now, those are not hogs, okay, where you would now have to go to Jerusalem. But watch this. I want everybody to understand this, is that there are set apart holy convocations. Again, they are set apart holy convocations. So wherever it is that we might be, that gathering now is supposed to now be a set apart gathering. And for us to understand the importance of Yom Teruah, and we're going to go through some scriptures to show us the importance of Yom Teruah. All right. So I pray that everybody has a clear understanding or overstanding of that. All right. So we're going to go back to the book of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, verse 6. It says, 6 days shall work be done, but the 7th day is the Shabbat of rest. And again, it is a Kodesh gathering. A Kodesh gathering is still using the same Strong's number, 4744. You shall do no work therein. It is the Shabbat of Yahuwah in all your dwellings. These are, okay, it's using the Strong's number 4150 in verse 4. This is now a moed. Okay, this is a moed of Yahuwah. These are now Kodesh convocations. And again, these convocations now, we're talking about the Hebrew word mikra, which you shall proclaim in their seasons. All right. And so these seasons here obviously is not talking about from a Western definition. We'll be talking about spring, summer, fall, winter. That's not what we're talking about here. This season here is the Hebrew word moed. All right, moed. And the very first time that we see the word moed, we go to the book of Genesis, and we go with the first Genesis, the first chapter, and we read verses 14. It says, and Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs. And a Hebrew word for signs is an uth, okay, or a signal. And then it says the word, and for seasons. The word seasons is the Strong's number 4150. And this is the very first time that we see the word moed. All right. So the reason why this is very important, because when we go back to the book of Genesis, the first chapter, Genesis, the first chapter, let me get that right quick. When we see Genesis, the first chapter, we see the word seasons and also the word moed. We're talking about there's going to be an uth or a sign in Shamayim that's going to actually share with us on how we come about with our festivals. And the way that we do that, Mishpachah, is by looking at the Mazaroth. All right. I've done so many classes on that, on the Mazaroth, where we're supposed to now be looking up at Shamayim to give us now our indicators or indications on when these festivals begin. And it talks about Mishpachah luminaries. All right. These luminaries. Verse 15 says, and let them be for, go back to verse 14. And Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of Shamayim to divide the day from the night. Okay. And let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and for years. So if there's anybody out there that's listening, if I can get some participation, in verse 14, it says, and Elohim said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night. What two luminaries is being talked about in verse 14 that divides the day from the night? Do anybody know what those two luminaries are? Because when we go ahead to read now, verse 14, it says, and let them, which is plural, be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years. Okay, let's do this. Let's read. Okay, and we have our good brother, Abad Yahu, and we have the sun and the moon. The sun and the moon. Hallelujah. So, and we have our good sister here. She's also confirming with Abad Yahu these two luminaries that's going to actually now give us light for the day and light for the night. We have the sun and the moon. We're going to now read this in Hebrew. In Hebrew, all right? We have Wayamer, Elohim, Yaheh, Morot, Orot, Bi Riki, Rakia, Hashamayim, Lohav, Dael, Bain, Hayam, Vayin, Lalaya, Wahayu, Laot, Ul Moyodim, Ul Yaimim, Wa Shanayim. Okay, my apologies for my bad pronunciation of the words here. But I want everybody to see something here. In verse 14, when it talks about these luminaries for the day and for the night, right, and it also makes mention of the stars in verse 14, for days and for years. And let me just read down to verse 16. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven, and to give light upon the earth. And it was so. And Elohim made two great lights. All right. And so everybody's saying the great light is actually the sun. And the greater light was to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. And he made the stars also. What's interesting now is that when you read this now, the greater light, we do have the word, Shamayim. We have the word for the greater light. And we have, and he made, which is in parentheses or in italics here, the stars. But what's interesting now is that you will never be able to find the word moon as one of the luminaries that the Father is actually using to illuminate the night skies at night. You're not going to find the moon there. It is just not there. It says this. It says the sun, and then it says and the stars. Okay, I'm not knocking out the significance of the moon, because if you go to the book of Jeremiah, the 35th chapter, okay, the word moon is not there. Okay, we have our sister Sharon, Satan, dark, Yeshua, spirit, the light. Okay, hallelujah. We have Jeremiah, the 35th chapter. Let's see. It might be 31, 35. Let me see. 1 second, Mishpachah. Jeremiah 31, 35, I believe it is. Yeah, 31, 35. Thus saith Yahuwah, which giveth the sun for a light by day. And it says, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night. Again, you know what? When we begin to look at the scriptures from a Hebraic perspective, and again, we're not knocking out the significance of what the moon is for, and because there's a solar count, okay, and you can use the sun, all right. You can use the sun to let you know how many days that are in a month. There's also a lunar count. And there's also a star count. And now I'm not going to go into that tonight. I'm not going to go into that because okay, I'll put it to you this way, okay, because I want to really stick with Yom Teruah. And it's all centered around how are we now bringing in our year? Are we bringing in our year to get a calculation on when the festivals begin based upon the observation or the observing of the moon, or should we be doing it according to the stars or the sun and the stars? I'm reading to you just one more time, all right? I don't really have an audience here, and I like the feedback. So doing it this way is kind of like one-dimensional. So, but if anybody have any questions, please leave a question, and I get back with you. But again, verse 31, 35 in the book of Yirmiyahu, it said, thus saith Yahuwah, which giveth the sun for a light by day. And the moon does have ordinances now, and it makes mention of the stars for a light by night. And then it goes on, it talks about now which divided the sea, and when the waves thereof roar, Yahuwah Elohim is his name. Now, let's go to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Let's go back there. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. No. Let's do this. I want to hit this thing home. I thought somebody might have had something. Nobody has any questions. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. There's something that I want to bring to everybody's attention. When in verse 2 it says, speaking to the children of Israel and saying to them concerning the appointed or the divine appointed times of Yahuwah, which you shall proclaim. I want everybody to look at the word proclaim. And like we said, that the word proclaim is the Hebrew word korah. And it means to call out, to recite, to read, to proclaim. But watch this. Watch this. We also have what we're calling a call stem. Okay, a call stem, and the call stem is 8799. 8799, all right? And we can also look at 8851. So in order to understand the Hebrew language, it is very important that we understand the meaning of words. Watch how this goes. The call stem for 8851, it is the most frequent used verb pattern. It's a verb pattern. Let me do this right quick because I want to make sure that everybody understands exactly what's going on so that we can understand the importance of these festivals here. Hold on one second here. Let me pick up my other Bible here. Yep, this is it. And we're in Leviticus, or Vayikra, the 23rd chapter. All right. And we're looking at the word holy. We looked at the word holy convocation. And we looked at the word proclaim. All right. The word proclaim. And we have in the grammar of it. And we went to 8851 because we have a call stem and we have an imperfect stem or understanding of the word. Now, let me just show you something here that I found very interesting. The imperfect is 8881. The imperfect expresses now an action, process, or condition which is incomplete, and it has a wide range of meaning. It is used to describe a single, and then it has in parentheses here now, as opposed to a repeated action, which is a verb. It differs from the perfect in being more vivid and pictorial. The perfect expresses now the fact, the imperfect adds color and movement by suggesting the process, the preliminaries, okay, to its completion. So you're going to find now when we see the word you shall proclaim. the 8789, the call stem of it. It is the most frequent used verb pattern, and a verb shows forth action, and it expresses the simple or casual action of the root in the active voice. In the active voice now. So this is something that a person is doing, actively doing. It shows, and again, this is also masculine. Also masculine. Meaning now is that when we begin to look at Hebrew, okay, in this constructive form with grammar. For example, there can be 100 women in the room. As soon as that male steps in that room, the audience now becomes masculine because the male just entered into the room. Now, you're going to find now that construct, and you shall proclaim. You're going to find that here in, watch this now, you're going to find that same format on how to read all of Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. You're going to find that same Strong's number now in the second verse of 8799. In the third verse, where we have, watch this now, 6 days shall work be done, but the seventh day is a Shabbat of rest, a holy convocation. You shall do what? No servile work. But when it says, and you shall do, we have now the same construct being used again, which is the 8799. The 8799, but it's associated now with the word asa, which means to do, to fashion, to accomplish, or to make. And so, as I'm doing this word study now, what became interesting now is that I needed to then now go back to the book of Genesis. When you go back to the book of Genesis now, the first chapter. Okay, let's go with the first chapter. This is amazing. When you go to Genesis, the first chapter, and you start with verse 10. Let's go with verse 10. It says now, Genesis, this is Genesis now, the book of Bereshit, the first chapter, verse 10. Watch how all of this comes to play here. And Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the seas now called he seas, and Elohim saw that it was good. To show now the masculinity now, or the patriotism, and how important now that we understand leadership in all of this, because we have now a relationship that the bridegroom is trying to have with the nation of Israel. So when he says, and he's proclaiming all these things now, you have the same number being used in Genesis, the first chapter, verse 9. You have Elohim said, and you have the number 8799. You go to verse 10, and Elohim called, okay, we have 8799. You go to verse 11, Elohim said, you have 8799. Watch now when we get to Genesis, the second chapter. Genesis, the second chapter. This is so fun when we begin to understand the importance of the language. And for me, the more I understand the language, the more that we're able to go beyond the top layer and begin to unpeel what's actually now are the different layers of understanding scripture. This should bring us to now a better understanding of Torah, and how important it is for us to now have this intimate relationship. And this intimate relationship that the Father is trying to have with the nation of Israel is centered around the festivals, or these appointed times, okay, that the Father now has prescribed for the nation of Israel in order for us to now to have this now intimate relationship. Now we have every time that we see in Yahuwah said, Yahuwah said, Yahuwah said, Yahuwah said. We have now in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter, where we have now the Mashiach now, or Yahuwah Elohim, speaking to Moses now, Moses now being this mediator, but everything that now the Mashiach or Yahuwah Elohim is saying to Moses now to deliver to the nation of Israel, it has to be concrete. And in order to understand concrete language, to understand the format, the foundational pieces on how we're supposed to interact with the Mashiach, we must understand the language. Now, let's go to the book of Genesis, the 2nd chapter, the 2nd chapter. I'm going to start with verse 17, 2 and 17. Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verse 17. Because we're going to find this 8799 throughout Scripture. We're at Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verse 17. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, okay, thou shalt not eat of it, for the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. All right. And so as we have in this conversation now, we have the word die, okay, which should be the word moot, right? We have the word moot. And attached to this word now, we have the 8799. Verse 18. And Yahuwah Elohim said, okay, and we have the number 8799. So Elohim said, it is not good for the man that he should be alone. I will make him a helpmate or helpmeet for him. Verse 19. And out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed 8799. Every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he will call them. And that word call, okay, should be the word korah, okay, to call out, to recite, to read, to proclaim. And then, let's see, get rid of that. Go back here. Verse 19 again, and out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air. Watch this now, and brought them into Adam to see what he would call them. And whatsoever Adam called every creature, that was the name thereof. But when you look at the word called, it's the Strong's number 7121, and we go back again to the word korah. But what's attached to the word korah is the number 8799. And again, understanding the voice, korah, to call, proclaim, convocation, and looking at how divine this is, and watch how it plays out. Just watch how it plays out. Anything that Adam names, all right, belongs to him, because this authority, because the 8799, what I'm trying to share now is that it shows authority, the one that is speaking, understanding Hebrew grammar, understanding that it's a verb, and a verb shows action. It's an action word. So, and we're going to also talk about the word parsed, P-A-R-S-E-D, because that is also associated with the word, okay, with the Strong's number 8799, and we're going to play all of this out, and it's going to all work perfect. It's going to all work perfect, Mishpachah. Just hold on for a second. So we have 2:19 again, and out of the ground Yahuwah Elohim formed every beast of the field and every fowl of the air, and brought them unto Adam to see what he would call them. And again, we have the 7121 and the 8799, and we're concentrating on the 8799. And whatsoever Adam called everything, again the word 721, we have the 8799 again, every living creature, that was the name thereof. Verse 20, and Adam gave names to all the cattle, okay, again, we have the 71:21 and the 87:99, and to the fowls of the air and to every beast of the field. But for Adam there was not found an help meet for him. And Elohim caused a deep sleep, okay, to fall upon Adam, and he slept. Okay, and so with the sleeping now comes now the action now, 87:99, and again, we're looking at the stem part of this word coming from the 88:51, the call stem, and it's a verb pattern word, and it expresses the simple or casual action of the root in its active voice. All right, in its active voice. Okay, let's get rid of that. Hit here again. Watch how this plays out. And Yahuwah Elohim, this is 21, and Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took, okay, and then we have the 39:47, the word he took, because we have with that word associated now the action, which is 87:89, and the 39:47 is the Hebrew word lacha, okay, and it just means to take, to get, to fetch, to lay hold of, to siege, to receive, to acquire, to buy, to bring, to marry. All right, to marry, to take a wife, to snatch, to take away. All right, again, with this 87:99. All right, we'll be here all night. If you were to take your time and understand now what is actually associated with the call stem, with the Hebrew word, putting it or formulating it together is going to show strength and masculinity. Verb, it means action. Okay, so the one that is speaking now is always the one that is taking action. And so, again, when we look at now what's happening with Adam, him naming the animals, and these things now become his possession, and you look at now, Adam did not have a wife, an Isha. And so now when you look at now the word lakha, which is the Strong's number 39:47, and its association with let me just go back to it, the book of Genesis. I'm just trying to work two devices here at one time. Genesis, the 2nd chapter, verse 21. Verse 21. And Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept. And he took one of his ribs and closed up his flesh. Let's move this out of the way. And the rib which Yahuwah Elohim, no, go back to verse 21. And Yahuwah Elohim caused a deep sleep to fall upon Adam, and he slept, and he took, the word slept, 34:62, one of his ribs, and closed up. We have the word close up is associated with the Hebrew word for 54:62. We have, again, the 87:99, the flesh instead thereof. And the rib which Yahuwah Elohim had taken from man, he made, okay, and the word made is going to be very important because it's associated with the 87:99. He, a woman, and brought her into Adam. And that's all. Oh, in verse 24, and therefore shall a man leave, okay, where we have the number 58, the Strong's number 5800, and we have it associated now with the 87:99, and we also have it associated with 853, which is just the et or the aleph tav, and the aleph tav just gives us the understanding that is an object pointer. All right. And if we wanted to go past the object pointer, we know that the aleph tav now actually represents Yahushua HaMashiach. I pray that this is confusing, all right? I just found it interesting, okay, because we can just see that there's a construct on how we're supposed to be reading all of this. And if we're not careful, we're going to miss it. We're going to miss it. So let's now go back to Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. Now let's go back there. Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. And let's go to 23. 23 to 23. And Yahuwah spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, okay, in the first day of the month, you shall have a Shabbat. Okay, so we have Yom Teruah as a Shabbat. Yom Teruah is a Shabbat. A memorial, and the word memorial is the Strong's number 2146, and we have the word Zikarom. Zikarom, all right, and it's a memorial, a reminder, a remembrance, all right, a reminder, a remembrance. Let me pull this up here a little bit higher. Okay, 23. And Yahuwah spoke to Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month. And the 7th month usually starts between like late September, early August, all right? Late September, early October. That's in August, but late September, early October is when the 7th month begins. So speaking to the children of Israel, saying in the 7th month, in the first day of the month, you should have a Shabbat. Okay, you should have a Shabbat, a memorial of blowing of trumpets. All right, blowing of trumpets. The word trumpets is actually Teruah. Okay, it is actually Teruah. And the word Teruah means now it's an alarm, a signal, a sound of tempest, a shout or blast of war, or alarm, or of joy, And so a lot of times people say, well, the word Teruah means, when you read it in the King James Version, is where I'm reading some of this from, is that a lot of people might believe that the word, when it says a memorial blowing of trumpets, an actual trumpet, no, that's not what we're supposed to be gathering from that. Not saying that, it would be a bad thing to blow the trumpets, because we do see trumpets being blown throughout Scripture. But keeping everything in its proper Hebraic perspective, it actually says Teruah. And the word Teruah means to make a blast, a loud sound, or a cry. Well, my computer is really, come on. So it is a blowing of trumpets, or Teruah, a blowing of Teruah. And the word blowing is also the Strong's number 8643 also. And you're making an alarm, a sound, a shout, and it comes from the 7321, which is the primitive root of the word ruah, which means to shout, to raise a sound, to cry out, to give a blast, all right? And the Hefel definition of the word is to shout a war cry, or alarm, or a battle. So I am not saying that we're not supposed to blow shofars. I mean, that is definitely a way that we will make an announcement with a large crowd of people, the nation of Israel. I mean, the coming together, because the Hebrew word korah and the word proclaim and understanding, the word mikra, a called out assembly, and this called out assembly meaning the nation of Israel. So what we should be gathering, Israel, is the understanding of the importance of putting words together and making sure that we understand everything from a Hebraic perspective, and me bringing out the number 8799 and the Hebrew words that were associated with it to help us to get a better understanding of what is actually going on in the verse. I found it very interesting. And for me, the more layers that I begin to unravel in this mystery, and the reason why it's a mystery is because we've been away from Torah for so long. But when we begin to understand the language, understanding verbs, subjects, pronouns, adjectives, because there is a proper way to read is what I'm trying to help everybody to understand here. And the reason why I wanted to say, listen, you know what? The word feast, okay, actually means a divine appointed time, versus the way that the King James Version has it, where we would see the word feast and we would think that it's a time to eat. And I am not saying that when the feast of Teruah comes in, or at the appointed time, that we shouldn't eat. Fine. But I just want everybody to understand is that there's a difference between a hog and Yom Teruah is not a hog. The hogs are in Deuteronomy 16 and 16 now. We're talking about Passover, Shavuot, and the Feast of Sukkot. And with those, I'm not going to say holidays. These are not holidays. These set apart convocations here now, where we have Passover, where we're looking at now the barley, and then we have the wheat harvest, and then we have the ingathering with things that grow upon the vine. And we know that the Mashiach fulfilled now the spring feast, or the summer feast. And what we're looking for now in these latter days here is for the Mashiach now to actually now fulfill the latter part of the festivals, which would be now the ingathering, which would be coming up 15 days from now. We would be into the Feast of Sukkot, and that would be from the 15th to the 21st. All right, it is 7 days. And if we really understand and look at how this is all coming into play, is that we see now everything that is mimicking Passover, where we have the 1st, the 10th, and the 15th, and from the 15th to the 21st, where we have the Feast of Unleavened Bread. We see the same thing happening now with the 7th month. But what's interesting now, again, with the 7th month, that is not a hog. Passover is a hog, but we still have the 7th month, the 1st day, the 7th month, the 10th day, the 7th month, the 15th to the 21st, and the same thing is being done with Passover. All right. I pray that we have that understanding. Also, what's important with Yom Teruah, okay, the day of the blast, of the day of the shout here, is that it's recognized as a hidden day, all right? I think it's in the book of Psalms. I think it's in Psalms, the 90, I think it's the 95th chapter. Let's see something here. Psalms, is it 95 or 91? Hold on one second here. It's in Psalms 91, actually. It should be definitely Psalms 91. Psalms 91. The reason why I decided to step it up a little bit, because I have my good brother Lamont Yahoo give me a call and like, we really need to make sure that we continue to show the Mishpachah how important it is for us to understand the language. Let's see here. One second, Mishpachar. 1 second. I wanted to show everybody something here. Okay, what do we have here? Let's see, is this one it here? It's definitely 91. Let me see something. Hold on 1 second. Let's get it this way. Actually, you know what? It's Psalms, the 81st chapter. That's what it was. Psalms, the 81st chapter. I thank everybody for your patience. Psalms, the 81st chapter. Okay, let me go back here to this one. Here we go. Okay, sorry for the delay. We have Psalms 81:3. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on your solemn feast days. And now I'm going to read this here now from, we have some of the King James Version Bible. Here's Psalms 81 verse. We have blow up the trumpet in the new moon in the time appointed on your solemn feast days. All right, on your solemn feast days. Now, that word new moon, okay, we have the word Kodesh, all right, Kodesh. We don't have the word Yashra'al, and it has the word, again, Kodesh. But when we read this in the Hebrew, we have, watch this now, we have Teruah. We have the bet or the va, okay, Kodesh. We have shofar, ba koseh, okay, ba in the koseh. But that word, and some have it full moon, blow up the trumpet in the full moon. But when you look at that word kaseh, okay, we have the word full moon, 3677. When we begin to look at the root of that word, okay, which is 3680, the word kasah, it means to cover, to conceal, or to hide. And this is the reason why when you look at Yom Teruah is looked at as a day where there won't, a day of unawareness. All right, a day of unawareness, where it talks about where the Mashiach is going to come as a thief in the night. And what I found interesting, as I was sharing with the congregation a couple of nights ago, is that it's a day where you're actually waiting for the verdict. All right. When I say the verdict, I mean now looking at the months. All right. Because prior to us coming out of Babylon, and even while we was in Babylon, all right, when we begin to understand Jeremiah's prophecy, looking at Jeremiah, Ezekiel, and Daniel, you don't see these names like Elul, Tisri, Abib. You don't see the names of these months until we come out of Babylon. When the months now went according to, it was a number system. Just like when we go to the book of Genesis, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in the first day, second day, third day, fourth day, fifth day. The only day that was given a name was the Shabbat. Okay, was the Shabbat. Now I'm going to back up just a little bit in regards to Yom Teruah. And it's the day of awakening. It's an awakening blast or cry, absolutely. But you're also now waiting for a verdict, because you had the sin with the golden calf. We must make sure that we remember this. The sin of the golden calf. Moses now goes up to the top of the mount in the month of Elul, which is the 6th month, with Elul having 30 days. And so now Moses says, listen, you know what, pre-adventure, I will go up to the top of the mount and I will ask for forgiveness for the nation of Israel, again, because of the sin with the golden calf. And we have Moses now acting as a mediator for the nation of Israel. Father, if you can't forgive the nation of Israel for this crime, blot my name out of the book. So Moses is gone for 40 days. Okay, 40 days. With 30 days being in the month of Elul, okay, Moses now comes back down 40 days later. 30 and 10 is 40. Now bringing us now to Yom Kippur, which is the 7th month, 10th day. So we have Israel now, okay, for 40 days on pins and needles, waiting for the verdict. Waiting for the verdict, whether or not the Father is going to destroy the nation of Israel because of that heinous crime of worshiping the golden calf. Moses comes down from off to the mount, and he gives Israel a stay of execution, where Israel is now told to move on. And it talks about now that this day of judgment is going to be a day now where the only light there will be now will be the light of Yahushua HaMashiach, because the Mashiach is representing the sun. We now have the books being open now, and the moon is not going to give her light, neither the sun. None of these things here. So it's like the whole thing with the 10 virgins. And what we would have to do in these last days here now, and this is what the 7th day festivals are all about, or the appointed times of the 7th month is all about. It is a day where this is now like the second coming of the Mashiach. The second coming, not what we have in 70 AD, all right? We're talking about now the fulfillment of prophecy now, with the understanding that the Mashiach fulfilled the spring or the early summer feast. So again, I just want everybody to understand again the importance of, again, Yom Teruah, where we now have the awakening blast. And understanding now is that even when we begin to look at the Mazaroth, and understanding now with Genesis, the 1st chapter, verses 14 and 15, where we don't even see the word moon in that translation. The word moon is not there. And what is actually now bringing in our year, and if I need to talk about it again, I have no problems with that in another lesson, where it's talking about now the sun and the stars now actually bringing in the year. The sun and the stars. And again, the moon it is very important, and we'll talk about that at another time. But I just want to stick here a little bit on Yom Teruah. Okay, I have 3 more verses here, Mishpachah, and we'll go ahead and put it down here. Dad, we went to Psalms I'm gonna have to go back to that. Yeah, I'm gonna have to really go back to it because I'm out of town right now. Okay, and I'm kind of like doing this thing here on a win here. Let's go to, let's see here, Numbers 29. Let's see what we got here. Numbers 29. Just give me a few more minutes here. Numbers 29. Numbers 29. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a holy or Kodesh convocation, which is a mikra. You should do no servile work. Okay, and the word servile is we have the aleph, we have the bet, we have the dalet and the hay. So that would be aboda. Work. It is a day of blowing, and that word blowing is teruah. In the word trumpets, we have again the word teruah unto you. And then it goes on to talk about, offering of the burnt offerings and a sweet saving to Yahuwah, 1 young bullock, 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year without blemish. Psalms 47 and 5. Psalms 47, verse 5. Oops, I'm off the camera. 47 and 5. Elohim, 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 Elohim. 47 and 5, the book of Psalms. Elohim is gone up with a teruah, with a shout, okay? With a shout, with the sound, okay? Cool, okay? The Strong's number 6963 of a trumpet or a shofar, all right? So that's the reason why I was making mention earlier now. In order to gather the attention of the people that are asleep, we have that Yahuwah Elohim, he has gone up with a teruah, okay, with the sound of an actual, guess what, shofar or cornet, a shofar. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. All right, 1 Thessalonians 4:16. And I think that'll be about it for tonight, Mishpachah. All right. That should be about it. Thessalonians, 1 Thessalonians. We go to a new scripture, a New Testament script. 1 Thessalonians 4:16. For Yahuwah himself shall descend from Shamayim with a shout. All right. And that word shout there is in the Greek, kel yasma. And it means a stimulating cry, either by which animals that are aroused and urged on by a man, a horse, or by chariots. And it just means a shout. All right, it means a shout. And so I just wanted to show that Yahuwah himself shall descend from Shamayim with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump. Okay, with the trump. And the trump is a trumpet. It's a trumpet, Mishpachah, a trumpet. Of Elohim, and the dead in the Mashiach shall rise first. And again, this trump with the day of awakening, okay, it's an awakening blast. It's associated with the Mashiach. And this is what those of us that are in the vineyard, men and women, okay, because the women, they also have a function inside of the vineyard. But it's the men's responsibility now to be good husbandmen in the vineyard, and recognizing, okay, the wine press, because wine is a grape harvest, and that is gathered during the winter. All right? And we have now the heir, which is Yahushua HaMashiach, and we know at the Mashiach's first coming that the husbandmen there, they did whatever it is that they wanted to do to the Mashiach, and those husbandmen at that time were were Caiaphas, and those that were in leadership amongst the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Those would have been the husbandmen, and those were the ones who were responsible for the killing, or would be held responsible for the killing of all the prophets now, from Abel all the way to Zechariah. So Mishpachah, today's class was to help everybody to understand Hebrew vocabulary, looking at the scriptures from a Hebraic perspective, trying to show, I'll go to it a little bit more. I only touched upon it, what is going on in the book of Genesis, the first chapter, verses 14, 15, and 16, where we see the sun and the stars, and the moon is not being mentioned. We went to Jeremiah 31, 35, where it makes mention of the sun and the stars. We're going to talk about this moon, okay? We're going to talk about it. And even when you go to the book of Psalms, the 81st chapter, verses 1 through 3, some books have the full moon, but when you look at the root of that word, keseh, it actually means when the moon is actually concealed, all right? Because I know there's some of our Israelite brothers who are teaching that, you know, the new moon is the full moon. Some are teaching it that it's the dark moon. Now, all of these things are very important, because what we're doing here at the congregation of Yashra'al, we're using all three luminaries. Okay, the moon is a luminary, but what's actually bringing in the year, I'm going to stand fast to that is actually the sun and the stars. And looking at those 7 stars and how important that Big Dipper is, and understanding Polaris and the Maseroth, we'll talk about that again. Mishpachah, I pray that you were able to get something out of tonight's lesson. All right, if there's any questions regarding anything that I have said, I pray that you just ask the question. And Mishpachah, it is actually dark out here where I'm at now. I pray that everybody enjoys the Shabbat, Yom Teruah, and the coming of the King and the awakening blast. So let's continue to wake up the people and understand that we're supposed to be following scriptures from a Hebraic perspective and not through Judaism. All right. So with that, I'm going to say shalom, shalom. I'm going to see if anybody has any questions, because I love questions. Are there any questions? Let's see. Okay. Are there any questions? Yeah. I mean, throughout scripture, I mean, you always see that the Mashiach being recognized as the sun, as the greater luminary, and not the lesser luminary, meaning the moon. All right, so the sun brings in the year, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Okay, but with that, Mishpachah, again, I'm going to say shalom, shalom, la yatov.